Warning: the following video is designed for educational purposes only. You should not rely on this information as a substitute, nor does it replace professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you have any concerns or questions about your health, you should always consult with a physician or other healthcare professional. The use of any information provided in this video is solely at your own risk. If you experience any discomfort while utilizing the information provided to you in this video, you should stop immediately and consult your healthcare professional. Talk about what we're doing today. You guys know that I'm not a doctor or physical therapist, and I'm not pretending to be one. I am just a corrective exercise specialist and personal trainer through the National Academy of Sports Medicine. We are today going to be talking about maybe some pain in the butt, maybe running down the hamstring, maybe you think it's sciatica, just pain in the rear area. So that can also stem from the mid to low back, all the way down to maybe the back of the knees. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about firing up the glutes, because if the glutes are not turned on all the way, other muscles might start getting involved when you're doing your squats, your leg lifts, your donkey kicks. So if your glutes are weak or you're not properly firing them up, then we have our piriformis muscle, which is deep in the glute. That starts to act as a prime mover. We have the TFL that likes to act as a prime mover when your glutes aren't turned on. What else? Glute med, that may act as a prime mover also. So, and that's when we're doing certain things like squats, bringing the leg outward. You want to make sure to try and fire up the glutes as well, because all of these muscles can do those movements, but are they meant to? Well, they're not as strong as your glutes should be. So your glutes are strong enough to perform those movements. So when they're weak, piriformis will act up. Your piriformis can actually get super tight and overworked to where it can sort of pinch the sciatic nerve, and they call that pseudo-sciatic pain. So that can feel like sciatic pain running down the hamstring. I think that's it. So a lot of it has to do with our pelvic tilts also. So anterior pelvic tilt is when we have our booty sticking out, and we've learned in other classes to kind of tuck things in and find a neutral, not so far as we go to posterior pelvic tilt, but somewhere neutral. So you work on your pelvic tilt. You can really hyperextend it and then tuck it inward and really work on both of those movements and then finding a neutral. So we won't really work too much on that today or talk too much about that. But when you're in this position all the time, your glutes, you can already feel they're not fired up, they're not turned on, they don't feel strong. When you start tucking in just slightly, you feel a little bit of turn on there, right? So you're utilizing your glutes, you're tucking your belly button in, and you're not just kind of letting things go, which can really pull on some muscles back here. Okay, so let's grab our lacrosse ball. We're going to start with the feet because that's where everything happens. That's our foundation. And in fact, there has been, well, I have read that, and I guess there has been studies shown, because I've read it a lot, where your feet muscles get super tight and things start happening in the back, right? So when you loosen up the muscles in the feet and train your feet to get even stronger by walking barefoot, by picking up something with your toes, by creating the point and the flex, you're really strengthening the foot, but also massaging it, that can loosen up some things in the back area. So 20 to 30 seconds from the toes all the way to the heel, and just getting in there to where you can kind of press. If you're super tight, you may not be able to press as much into the ball. And we'll just switch to the other side just for the sake of class today, since we don't have all day, which I can teach this class all day if given. Can make like an 8-hour workshop. So all the way from the toes to the heels, just going back and forth, also digging in as much as you can, finding that pressure. So I've talked about this before, but there is a page that I follow, and it's also a certification. It costs a lot of money, but it seems well worth it. Called Functional Patterns, and the creator has gotten two balls out, two lacrosse balls, stepped on both while doing a hip hinge against like a little stick or a pole. It's super intense, but it releases, that is his low back pain release. So it releases all of the low back pain. We've tried it in my family once, and we could only step on one ball, one ball and maybe one softer ball just to kind of get in there. Okay, so we got the feet rolled out. We're going to get our foam roller. Keep the ball handy, but we're gonna get our foam roller, and we're gonna just go ahead and move on to what we're talking about today. So let's go ahead and foam roll the TFL. We know that there's plenty of muscles that we can foam roll before workout, after workout, but for today, we're gonna just foam roll some of the muscles that are affected by what we're talking about. So the TFL, little muscle in that hip area, the one that likes to get overactive when we do our squats and our butt is lazy, or maybe they're just not strong enough. Our glutes are not strong enough. So you can keep your foot over the other leg, you can keep it behind, but you're just kind of going up and down that small area in the hip. We're not going to go down the IT band, but IT band syndrome is another problem that you could have in talking about sciatic pain. So the TFL is attached to the IT band, or it turns into the IT band, I guess. So up and down, I like to go forward and back also to hit some of that glute med. Let's see. From here, we're going to go into the glute. So if you already have glute pain, you might have to test the waters and see. But I like to take my ankle of the glute I'm working on and foam roll all the way the length of that glute. So you might have to back off of this if you're already having glute pain. You might just have to sit on it and use the breath. So that's another thing we need to talk about, is your breathing and really taking deep breaths and not guarding during stretches, during foam rolling. Because when you guard your breath or hold your breath because things are so tense, it just causes the body to become tenser, and you just make things worse and more tight. So if at any time the foam rolling gets to be too much, you just want to sit pressure on there, maybe 20, 30 seconds, maybe 10 deep breaths, back off, and come back to it. So from that glute, we'll go ahead and get the quad, top of the thigh on that same side, because when the quads are tight, it can really affect your back side as well. And I'm going a bit fast, but when you're doing this on your own, you can take things really nice and slow and controlled movements. From there, we'll hit the inner thigh, because we know when the hips are tight, inner thigh is tight. And again, all sorts of problems. So bend the leg that you're working on and go from the inside of the knee towards the groin. I always feel like I get too close to the camera. Now, if you don't have a foam roller, you can always learn these techniques, and some people have done them with a pie roller, dough roller, I forget what it's called, a rolling pin, a rolling pin. But you have to kind of do it yourself. You know, you gotta roll it out like you're rolling dough. All right, let's move on to the other side. So we'll start with the TFL muscle. And again, just kind of tiny movements here. The TFL muscle, when it becomes tight, it can really irritate the knees, irritate the low back, make you feel like you have hip problems. So it can cause all sorts of things when it gets really tight and overworked. And if you like, move kind of side to side. Side to side, up and down. Sometimes I'll do a little circle. Or if it's really pinching, just sit there and use your breath. Your breath sends that signal from the brain to any pain that you're having and just kind of tells it to calm down. So similar to tight muscle, these are just merely tools that we're using, the foam roller and the ball. The breath, the nervous system is really what's going to help you send that signal to release. All right, from there, glute. And we didn't do the quad. We'll do the quad in a minute. Glute muscle, the length of the glute. You can cross over like this if that's a little too intense. You can keep things down and just lean towards the side. Or just sit there and kind of move. You can feel that piriformis muscle when you move side to side. It's super deep inside the glute. And let's move to the quad. So turn it to the front side. I'll turn this way. Bend the other knee, just so you can kind of get a good grasp, good handle on it. And then we'll move to the inner thigh, adductors. So take that vertically. There's so many other ways you can do the adductors on the foam roller, but I like to lay it vertically and then bend the knee across. And again, it might be super intense for some because we are always tight in our hips. We're sitting, or inner thighs are weak and we don't utilize them as much as the others. And then let's just go ahead and open up our back with this. So mid back, not lower back, unless you have one of those fancy low back Intella rolls. But mid back up to the shoulders and just open up the chest. Maybe here's some snap, crackle, pops. So we know that the body is a kinetic chain. Everything is connected. So we will be talking about some thoracic spine stuff and moving the torso, because when all that is tight from being hunched over, shoulders forward, sitting all the time, things can really start happening to the backside as well. All right. So done with the foam rolling for now. Let's grab our ball back. Well, if you don't have a ball, you want to use the edge of your foam roller. We're going to hit the hip flexor, the psoas muscle. It's super deep. It attaches to somewhere in your spine here. I think it's T12 or something like that. Don't quote me. Don't quote me if people are watching this later, because I'm sending this video to people later. But somewhere up in your spine. So it goes up far. So we think hip flexor, you know, helps us bend and lift here. So we think hip flexor is down here. So when we hit the hip flexor, you want to either lay on the edge of your foam roller or your ball. You have your ball. So it's going to go where your belly button is. Go maybe a couple inches out. And that is going to be sort of where your hip flexor is, and you can kind of adjust yourself as you feel it. I love to lay on the edge of my foam roller because I really get a deep stretch there. But you can kind of reach your arms out and then actively reaching your fingertips and then press up through your chest. And you'll feel hopefully a little stretch there with that ball digging in. You can adjust it as needed. There it is. And for bigger people, if you have a little bit more mass, maybe that's why I need my foam roller. I have a lot of mass there. You can lay on the edge and just kind of, I call it throwing yourself on there. Just relax on there. You can do that on the edge of a dumbbell. You can do that on the edge of a kettlebell, either the handle or the ball. You can also, with your kettlebell, if you only have a kettlebell, let's just say this is my kettlebell, I'm going to press right beside my belly button a couple of inches or an inch or so, and I'll just press down there and just exhale. Inhale through the belly, exhale. So do that on both sides, wherever you are, whatever feels like it's giving you the most relief. And use that breath. Super intense. For me, it is super intense laying on this foam roller. So just make sure you don't guard it. Okay, and just release. So if you did both sides, go ahead and push that away. We're going to go ahead and move into our flow. The first thing we're going to do is lay on our belly. And we talked about breathing 360 in other classes. So filling up, yes, the belly with air, but most of the time, especially when we're in a sort of fight or flight thing, or we're really tense, we breathe through our chest, and then we hold a lot of tension from that in the shoulders. So we need to learn to breathe 360 through the belly, around the back, then filling up the rib cage. And just by doing that, you can relieve a lot of pain and tension. So imagine breathing that way as we go into, let's just bend our arms, maybe elbows under shoulders or so, pulling the shoulders back and down, and we're just going to breathe. Fill up the belly with air, press the hips down. Exhale, navel to spine as you keep pressing the hips down. And I don't know about you, but when I do that, because I do have low back pain and it is pretty constant every day, and I used to call it chronic back pain, but now it doesn't feel, especially after doing this class with you guys, so I appreciate you guys always coming to these, it doesn't feel as bad as it used to. But when I exhale, I can feel, especially my lower right side, where I have a lot of pain. I can feel that going all the way down through the back of my leg. And after a few breaths, I don't even feel it anymore. So just amazing what the breath can do. Okay, from here, we're gonna go to similar to what we do, a half cobra push-up. So hands under the shoulders. As you inhale bottom, tuck your elbows in. Exhale, press the hips into the floor. You can keep the legs bent, or if you would like, you can go all the way up. And exhale, pushing the shoulders back. Think of extension from the top of the head, not crunching the low back. So inhale, coming down. Exhale, coming up. Belly button to spine. We'll do one more because I have a lot for you guys. So these things you can kind of do, 5 to 10 if you're on your own, but we're going to kind of make this into a little flow. So from here, go ahead and push all the way up onto the knees, but come back to your elbows. We'll get a thoracic opener here. So hand behind the ear. We'll close, inhaling, elbow to elbow. We'll exhale. So right now we're on the elbow first. Depending on how tight you are, I'm super tight at the top. You might not be able to open as much, but you want to get and use that breath for a nice opening twist here. The slower, the better. I'm kind of moving fast because of class time, but just to kind of show you what the movement is. Let's kind of bring it down. Let's do that to the other side. Hand behind the ear. We're closing on the inhale, elbow to elbow, and we exhale and we open. Close, open. So like I said, if your upper back is tight, it will have a lot to do with your lower half being tight, which can do a lot of damage to the bottom half. Go ahead and come up onto the hands. Next progression, same thing. We're gonna sink elbow to elbow and then we'll open. Just do 3 on one side for now. With deep breaths, belly button is pulled in. Come back to center and we'll do 3 on the other side. You want to actively push the ground away from you. So you don't want to sink into that shoulder blade. You don't want a winging in your shoulder blade. And scapular winging we've talked about in another class, but we can go over it again in another class in the future. But scapular winging, if you don't know what it is, look it up. A lot of people do it when they do planks and push-ups. Not always the best thing to do. So from here, yes, I'm reading notes, guys. Okay, so we did our quadruped. Okay, so let's go ahead and push up to standing. Just come up and stand slowly. Okay, so now we'll get into some hamstring stuff. So we'll go ahead and take our foot, flex it in front of us. You want to reach, pushing the hips back, and then stand. So we'll do about 5 of these scoops and then stand. So really think of scooping, and you want to go ahead and try an anterior pelvic tilt. So stick the butt out and not tucking it in. Exhale, coming down. Inhale, coming up. I feel it coming all the way up here. Exhale, coming down. Inhale, coming up. Let's do the other side. Dig the heel in, a little slight bend as you push the butt back. And depending on your flexibility in your hamstring, if you're here, that's fine. As long as you can feel that stretch in the back of that thigh, that front thigh that's digging in. Stick your butt out. Come on. Stick your butt out. Just give me one more. So this same sort of scoop, we're going to do that kneeling. So switch sides. So this time we're going to lunge forward, still keep the knee right over the ankle, but not over the toes. And then we'll scoop, stick the butt out. And then we'll lunge. And then exhale again. So I inhale at the top. I exhale, lunge, squeeze my butt in for that hip flexor stretch on the other side, and then I exhale again for the hamstring. So inhale, top, exhale, lunge. Inhale, top, exhale. Let's just do one more. And switch sides. So I know you girls watching know what I mean when I say tuck the butt in for that hip flexor stretch, because some people kind of just stick it out and don't feel anything here. So we want both hip flexor and hamstring here. So let's do that again on this side. 5 on this side. Exhale. Exhale, scoop. You can play with lifting the toes. You can play with keeping the toes down. And see how you feel with that hamstring. Good. So once you're done with your 5 there, we'll go ahead and keep ourselves on the knees, but this time, I guess I'll come this way. So instead of the leg coming forward in that lunge, we're going sideways in that lunge. So we're gonna lunge to the side and then reach. And again, you can lift your toes, so it's kind of diagonal or to the side of me here. I'm gonna lunge, I get a nice hip opener right here, and then I'm gonna reach and get the hamstring and the inner thigh together. I'm just kind of reaching inside the foot, inside the ankle, and pushing this hip to the side here. So if you were doing these on your own by yourself, you can do 10 to 12. We'll just do about 5. And then we'll go to the other side here. So off to the side, I'm going to lunge, and I'm going to reach for the inside of the foot. Lunge. I'm still squeezing my butt in that lunge, so I feel also that hip flexor here. These feel good. Could be here all day, right? Feels so good. Okay, let's go ahead and lay on our backside. It's not really flowing very well, but go ahead and get on your backside. Try not to bump my head. All right, inhale that knee in. Exhale, straighten it, flex the foot. So keep the foot flexed, and you can grab onto the foot, the calf, the back of the knee, whatever you'd like. So from here, we're going to keep the foot flexed as we squeeze heel towards the booty, and then flex. Press the heel as hard as you can. So give me one more like that. This is an active hamstring stretch here. And then we'll kind of take it side, keeping the foot flexed. Take it to the other side with the other hand. And then again, outside. Keep the foot flexed. Keep it active. Inside. And then back to the center. Flex, press, flex, press. One more coming outside. Outside, foot is flexed. Inside the body. I don't get very far there, but outside the body. But you feel all that behind the knee, inside the body. I'll give myself a little push. And then bring it down. And let's do it to the other side. Inhale at the bottom, exhale, knee comes in. Sometimes this is just enough for someone to kind of feel it in their glute. Keep the foot flexed. Exhale, coming up. I grab the back of my knee here, and then I'm going to squeeze heel together to the glute. Press the heel. One more. Squeeze down. Press up. Now with the same hand, take it to the outside without rolling over and lifting the other hip. Keep it straight. Keep the foot flexed. Bring it to the other side. Whew, feel that all behind the knee. Again, bring it to the outside. Foot is flexed. Inside. Back to center. Go ahead and give me a couple more squeezes here. That foot is flexed the whole time, guys. Try and bring the toes close to your nose. Bring the leg to the outside of the body. Keep the hips down. Other side. Whew, gosh, that one, killer. And other side. And go ahead and bring it down. All right, where are we? Roll yourself up. As you're seated here, you're gonna get some hamstring. Same thing that we were doing laying, but we're gonna sit up nice and tall. So flexing the foot, bringing it in, and you're just trying to squeeze the back of that knee as you sit up nice and tall. You can do 10 to 12 of these on your own. We'll do a few here on this side, and we'll just slide it back. Bring the other leg. You can also think of these as like nerve glides, if you've heard the term nerve glides. Kind of gliding. A couple more. And bring it down. All right, tuck one leg in. This is going to be a cross body hamstring reach. So we're going to take the opposite hand and you're going to reach towards the other side of the foot. So exhale, reach, inhale, up. Exhale, reach, inhale, up. You can play with that foot if you don't feel it as much. You can play with bringing that foot out a little bit farther. So you've got to twist a little bit more. You're getting some of that QL muscle there. And let's do the other side. Exhale, reach, inhale, up. And you might be rounded a little bit depending on your flexibility. So just think of leaning in first with the chest as you get more flexible with that twist. Sometimes the longer you do these in one sitting, like let's say we're doing 10 to 12, your last couple, you'll see that you'll get just a little bit deeper. Go ahead and take the legs out, nice wide reach here. So we're gonna just slide. So sliding the hands forward on the exhale and on the inhale. At the same time, you can point and flex. So we'll point coming up, we'll flex reaching or sliding forward. Go ahead and come up, point the toes, slide, leaning the chest as you flex, point the toes as you come up. Maybe one more. You might have seen yourself come down a little further each time you did that. So now we'll move into strength. So bring things in. We're going to start with shin box 90-90. So first we'll start, and this already might be just a little bit of a chore if you have some sciatic pain. But first, normally our 90-90 is literally 90-90, but we're going to close it up a little bit. So toe to the knee, maybe this foot comes in a little bit. We're going to lean to the back. So you might play with the back foot. If your knee is bothering you, you might play with the back foot, but you're going to feel some cramping. So cramping means that, or maybe you don't, but I do. If you feel some cramping, cramping just means you're weak in those muscles that are associated with this move, okay? So you're going to squeeze the butt, hips forward as you open the chest and lean back, keeping the knees down and keeping the feet down. So we're going to start there and breathe. Just a couple of breaths. You could definitely use this as just a static stretch. This is internal rotation of the hip, external rotation. So in my post yesterday, I said something about we're not just going to do pigeon pose. A lot of people do need pigeon pose if they have sciatic pain or glute pain. But I just kind of wanted to show we always neglect the internal. So we kind of want to do both so we can get stronger in both areas. But we'll definitely do a pigeon towards the end for people that need pigeon. But shin box is always great for people who can't get into pigeon just yet. So we'll start here, and then I gotta scoot up a little bit just so I have room. We're gonna lift the chest, trying not to round. Of course, you're probably gonna round depending on your mobility, but you're just gonna switch side to side. And squeeze the butt, lean back, open chest. So just shin box rotations for now. This is, we're going to progress from here. So this is sort of a regression from what we're going to do in a moment. Already that side feels better on me. We'll just take it one more to the other side. I lied about taking it one more. How we're going to progress though is keeping the hands behind us. We're going to lift one leg, hold it open. And then as that begins to drop, then raise the other and hold it open. And then drop. Oh, and we'll do that again. So raise it up slowly. Try to get it as far over to the outside as you can before you raise up the other leg. And then close. So again, raise it up slow. Hold it open. And then try and pull it down as far as you can before you need to raise that leg. So that's as far as I get before I need to raise that leg so that this leg can go down. And then just to make it even, close it. One more time. Exhale up. Hold it open. And then start. And then raise. And then you can drop. So we'll go ahead and regress from here. So in the regression, your hands can come up, open. Here you may need to round a bit in the back, and that's okay as we continue to get stronger. But I want you to squeeze, open the chest, squeeze the glute. Again, open, and then squeeze. From here, progression, can't talk. Go ahead and take this apart. I don't remember if I said the wrong term last time, but we'll catch it later. All right, so we're taking it apart now. Sitting up nice and tall. If you need to, put the hands behind you. If not, you can test yourself here, test the waters. Lift up, lift up, lift up. And then bring the other leg. Squeeze the butt. Again, lift, 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 lift. And then bring the other one up and squeeze. One more on each side. So lift that leg. And then the other. So trying not to lift them both at the same time is really key. So I got one more. Lift. And squeeze. All right, so from here, you might need to lean forward just a little bit, but we're going to do a end range motion hold for this internal hip rotation. You want to try and bring that heel up without leaning forward too much, but if you have to, that's where you are, right? So you want to feel that squeeze here. If you can lean back and sit up tall and do it, great. Go ahead and drop it. Press that knee into the ground. Try not to lift this front knee either. Exhale, bring that heel up, and you can give yourself a little turn so that the toes turn down, but you're flexing the foot. And bring it down. So 5 to 10 of those. We'll go ahead and do that to the front side here. That's internal rotation. This will be external rotation strength. Same thing. You can lean back a little bit with your chest open, flex the foot, and just bring things up and down. You can also take the hands here and lift up and down. You're going to feel that contraction coming all up the glute to the low back. Trying not to move this side. Exhale up, inhale down. All right. So when you get better at these, you can try and lift like that whole leg up without leaning over. I cannot do it. I'm not strong there yet. But just to give you a visual, if you can lift that whole leg up, you can come forward a little bit and try it there. But just like in one of the classes that we had some of these moves in, I'm like, just as long as you squeeze in the intention of it moving and your mind is saying it's moving, it's going to get stronger. Okay, so let's do that to the other side. So bring it over, squeeze the butt, and go ahead and plant your fingertips somewhere, trying to lift that heel up. One side might be stronger or weaker than the other. You can try it with the fingertips behind you. Maybe forward. And then we'll lift the front here up. So shin is parallel to your chest, and we'll just try and bring, that one. And if it's not moving, but you feel that squeeze or that cramping, that's okay. It's just weak, and it'll get stronger every time you do it. So again, if you want to practice bringing the knee, the leg up, see how far you have to lean to do it, right? And then you just kind of work from there. Definitely can't do it with the hands behind. All right, so that is your hip 90-90 or shin box progressions. So now we'll move into clamshell, which seems like clamshell is such a good exercise for just about anything. So you can kind of tilt the knees coming up a little bit. Your heels, your butt, your shoulders will be in one line. Your hands can lay on top of the hands here. So some people come into these clamshells, I don't know, somewhere way up here, and they're moving their hips. So you just kind of want to make sure rib cage tucked, shoulders in their sockets, belly button in, no flaring out, trying to get that leg up there. You want to not create that extensive arch in the back. So heel, glutes, shoulders. Heels are together, and you can do 10 to 12 of these, 2 to 3 sets, depending on what you would like to work on. The exhale coming up. And then we're going to try this differently. So now you're going to pull your knees back. Pull them back. You're going to get more of the glute muscles now. So you worked a little bit of the hip and maybe glute med in that one. And now you're going to feel even more. So if you pulled back, pulled your knees back, so now they're in line with your hip and shoulder. You're going to feel a little bit more back there. Exhaling up, inhaling down. So again, you can do 10 to 12. Strengthening the glute muscles, the hip muscles, the low back muscles as well. So to get into even more of the low back muscles and the obliques, now you're going to do a lifted clamshell. So you're going to come back to the first position where your heels are in line with your glutes and your shoulders. This is all in line here, elbow, shoulder, shoulder stacked, lifting the hips up. We've done this before. Why does it seem so easy right now? Because we haven't done a full hour of bar. This is proof that we can do this. This comes at the end of bar and we're like dying, we can't lift up. So another way you can do this is lifting up and then dropping down. Lifting up and opening, dropping down. And you can do any of these clamshells with a band. So getting this side plank into it, side planks are so good for your QL muscles to strengthen those. We're constantly stretching those because our low back is painful, tight, but we don't think about strengthening them to release the pain too. So we've got to think about that. So we'll start with that knees forward, hips in line, clamshell. We'll just do a few of these to kind of even things out. And of course, you want to go nice and slow, especially if you're in pain and you're utilizing the corrective exercise model. And go nice and slow, controlled, 10 to 12 reps, maybe 2 sets. Now let's pull back. Knees in line. Exhale, squeeze it up there. And my hips are staying nice and still. My rib cage is tucked, so I'm trying not to wobble around everywhere. And now let's get on our, bring it closer, get on your elbow in line with the shoulders, hand on hip, lifting up, get a few this way. So for sure, when you're in this side plank, you want to squeeze your butt coming forward slightly so you're not in a big old arch in the back. And then try it with that drop and that lift, because that's always going to be another option for you. All right, go ahead and lay down. Okay, Jane Fonda's coming up. Inner thigh is your adductors. So for these Jane Fondas, you can either keep your foot, top of the leg over or behind. Okay, so just kind of hold yourself in one spot and we're just going to flex the foot coming up, strengthening the inner thighs and the hips inside here. So crossing it over, this gives you a little bit more tension. So besides the lifts, which just seem so simple, but they're such a good inner thigh strengthener, we're flexing the foot, right? So now when you lift up. Now I want you to turn the toes towards the bottom. Your foot is flexed, turn the toes towards the floor. Bring it back to center, and then can you rotate the toes up towards the ceiling? Bring it back to center. Now drop it down. We do it again. Lift it up, hold, heel towards the sky, heel towards the floor. Back to center, bring it down. Feel that burn? Lift, heel towards the sky, heel towards the floor, center, and down. We'll just do 3 on that side for now. So that is going to be your internal, external, working on that external, internal hip stuff, but strengthening the inner thigh. So let's go ahead and get a couple lifts. Find your positioning, flexing the foot, a couple lifts up. Oh, yeah, this one's weak. Inhale, bottom, exhale, lift. Remember, you can take that leg to the back if you need more clearance. And now let's hold it up. The foot is flexed. Hopefully it was flexed when you lifted. Heel towards the sky. Whew, this one's weaker. Toes towards the sky. Center and drop. Exhale up. Heel towards the sky. Heel towards the floor. Center and down. Again, lift. Heel towards the sky. Heel towards the floor. Center and down. Believe it or not, all of this has everything to do with sciatic pain. Getting all this nice and strong. Okay, so we're gonna go into, you guys have a chair, yes? First I'm gonna show you with no chair. Okay, if the chair is a little bit much, and make sure the chair is going to be nice and steady. So we're in our side plank, right? I want you to, if you don't have a chair, I want you to stagger the feet and think of lifting the bottom leg, okay? You can stagger out as well, so you can try it both ways, stagger out so that the top foot is not crossed over, and lift the bottom leg. If that's a lot, we stick with the Jane Fondas, but maybe try and get one either stacked on top, but try not to rotate forward, right? This is gonna be a little bit harder. And then you're lifting that bottom leg, or staggered so that your bottom leg is forward and you try and lift. Otherwise, you can always just stay in this staggered and work on that QL muscle, that low back muscle. So now, oh my goodness, my chair might have been a little bit high. We'll see. Top leg on the chair, elbow under shoulder. Make sure your chair is steady and it's not gonna fall on you. Make sure you got good footing on it. Maybe your couch might be better too if that's a little bit more steady. As you lift, stacking the shoulders, you're gonna lift the inner thigh and drop. Lift towards the chair and drop. So, did y'all see that? Yeah, okay, good. Yes, good job, Joylyn. Whew. Good, so just lifting the bottom leg and dropping. So, similar to the Jane Fondas, but we're using a chair. So Jane Fondas are gonna be our regression if we need, and then we can progress to the chair. Lift and lower. And maybe you just get a couple on each side. So try them both on each side. You can always use a block or a book, right, for that top leg. And take that, stagger it out, and then try and lift it that way. As low, I think the lower is a little bit gonna be a little bit more intense. Maybe the higher the chair, the better. All right, so we tried both sides of that. See, what time are we at? Okay, perfect. So we got all of that. Now we're gonna go into our nerve glides on the chair. So those are your strength methods, and that's not everything you need, but definitely some things that you can strengthen for sciatic pain, posterior chain pain. Good, Kimberly? Yes, there you go. Those are tough, right? Okay, now look forward. She's like, I'm done. No, you're watching me now. We'll practice it. Those are hard. Okay. Slump stretch. Slump stretch. So just kind of sit up nice and tall in your chair. You're going to, see, I need my thighs to be on the chair. So as you slump and round your back, get into bad posture and tuck your chin, you're going to flex your foot out. Okay, and your hands can be at the side or they can help your leg. You can try and point your toe at the bottom if you have clearance as you sit up tall. As you exhale, flex the foot, straighten the leg. Inhale, point the toe at the bottom. Exhale, slump. So the reason why we're slumping, we're rounding the top of the head here, rounding the shoulders. This is to get more length in the spine. From here, if that's not doing anything, for people who have a lot of pain in the sciatic nerve area or in the back area, that's gonna help them a lot. But if you're not feeling anything, you can hold this flexed toes towards your nose and then just work on the neck, rounding, and then sitting up as you keep that static hold, that end range motion. So nothing is helping your leg stay up and flexed, but yourself. Round and open. From here, you can keep your head rounded and then work on the leg. Point the toe at the bottom, flex the foot. So this is a good if you've been sitting too long and you're feeling some nerve. Now, true sciatic nerve pain is going to be all tingly, the bottom at the bottom part of the leg, below the knee. And relax. From here, you can take, we're going to stay on this side, okay? So take hold of your shoulders and just kind of hug yourself, sit up nice and tall. You're going to twist. At the same time you twist, flex that same foot, twisting over that leg, and then coming in. You don't necessarily have to point at the bottom unless you've got some clearance, and you can kind of work on that flexion and plantar flexion, pointing the toe, the bottom. So when we're limited in the range of motion in our spine, it can definitely affect a bunch of areas. So we're just trying to get some mobility going here. And relax. I feel that in my low back. That stretch. Okay, what do I got? What else I got for you? So we got to do the other side. So we did the end range motion hold. Okay, so again, we'll go with the slump. So flex and round the upper body, and then try and point coming down and sit up tall. Round. You can also grab the bottom of your chair and just kind of get you even more stretch there. Now let's hold that stretch and just work on tucking, rounding the top and opening. You can always take the chin up if that feels okay for you. From here, we'll go ahead and round the upper body. Keep that still in that rounded position, and then flex and point. And you really want to straighten the leg, toes towards you. Because if you're not actively bringing those toes towards you, you might not feel that stretch in the back. But if you're not having any pain or tightness in those areas, this might not even feel like it's doing anything to you. Go ahead and bring things up, and then we'll do our crossover. So we're gonna exhale, twist, exhale, bring that foot, flex, toes towards you. Inhale, back to center. Exhale, back to center. Exhale, back to center. We'll just do one more. Exhale, back to center. Okay, I am gonna go into our stretch and mobility, but I do first want to show you guys the chair pigeon. I can't do it on that chair because it's got handles, but how far does this go? So if you have a lot of pain, you can't get into pigeon, or you know somebody that maybe is not that flexible, they can cross their leg over on something high like a bed. This still, my couch might be a little low for some, but try and rotate this hip inward. This foot might have to tuck in a little bit depending on their flexibility, but if they can get here, they will stretch out that piriformis area, right? So I gotta go into almost a split here, but maybe their bed, if it's high enough, as long as they can try and internally rotate their hips and get that knee sorted down, they're gonna get that stretch in there. So we already know what a pigeon looks like. We're gonna actually go into a runner's lunge with the hip drop. So I'm gonna take this side. We'll go into a nice deep runner's lunge here, trying to drop the hips, but actively doing so and not just hanging out with the arched back. We want things to stay active. We don't want to throw things out, movements that we're not ready for. We want to be ready. So we want to squeeze the butt and drop the hips. Someone that is overly flexible, you know, it's not always good to be overly flexible or hypermobile, because then they don't know how to control their joints or their movements, and they can actually hurt themselves even more. So we want to learn how to control our movements, control even the stretch, but relax into it. So we got this nice runner's lunge opening the hips. It can look different for everybody. It can look like it's up here, but you're actively squeezing the glute. From here, we're going to do our nice twist hip drop, lifting these toes at the top and grabbing onto this knee so it stays in towards the body. So you're going to push your floor away from you, but drop your hip, giving yourself a little twist, looking over the shoulder. You're going to feel that in that QL muscle, that low back of that side that is down. You're going to feel it in your TFL muscle of that side that is dropped. And go ahead and lift up. Inhale at the top. We'll do one more. Exhale, hold it down there. And go ahead and bring it up. I'm going to switch you over to a nice stretch in the inner thigh. So you just kind of swung yourself around, and now that leg that was bent, you're going to keep it straight. You can drop down to the elbows. You can bring yourself up here, relaxing the toes so you can get the inner thighs and not necessarily all the nerves. We already did our nerve glides, so we just want to relax. From here, you can give yourself a little more of thoracic stretch. Kind of opening everything. And bring it down. We'll switch sides here, getting into your runner's lunge, actively dropping the hips, squeezing the glute. Grab onto that knee and bring the toes up as you drop the hip. Toes are up so you can kind of pivot. Press your floor away from you, but drop your hip, just so you're not kind of sinking in there and not doing anything, but maybe you're hurting your shoulder in the long run. Breathing. Parasympathetic nervous system with your breath, telling the muscles to relax. Now swinging it back around and straightening this side and just kind of pushing your hips, anterior pelvic tilt, so booties to the back. Drop it if you want. And then you can reach up and through. You can do that lifted. From here, let's switch to kneel. Okay. Bring it back onto your knees. We'll get into our little mermaid. So, which is our 90-90 mostly. QL muscle stretch, so low back muscles right on each side of the spine. We're going to reach up and over. And then up and over. And again, up and over. And up and over. One more each side. Try and look under your armpit. And up and over. And let's go ahead and switch it to the other side. So how I want you to switch. There we go. And those hips mobile. So just adjust your mermaid if you need to. And you can start on whichever side. We're going to do 3. From here, if you've done your 3, we're going to get into pigeon. So you're going to take your back leg, drop that the top of the thigh, press your hips down. Ideally, the front leg is about 45 or 90 degrees. For some, it may need to be tucked in, and you don't ever want to adjust too much, or if you see someone doing it, adjust them too much because that can really tear. something or just make something super uncomfortable for them. So even though kind of tucking things in might be a little harsh on the knees, we just got to rotate, think of rotating the hips inward. This will come eventually. The adjusting will come. Again, you can lift up onto a bed with that top leg if that's better, but you'll feel all that stretch in the glute. Coming down lower is great. You just don't want to slump into it. So again, just staying active with keeping the hips rotated in. You can do a lying pigeon all you want, but just keep it nice and active. Bring it up. And we'll just switch to the other side here. So if you need to, start off in 90-90. You can always tuck things in and rotate your hips in this 90-90 before you get into your pigeon. Making sure the bent leg, the glute of that side is not touching the floor. So even if someone was tucked in because that's where their mobility is, you just don't want them laying on their butt, right? You can always rotate them inward. They just might have to tuck in a little more. And then they will work on wiggling the foot out. Your lying pigeon or sleeping pigeon, but it's active. So tucking things under, rotating things inward, and breathing. Go ahead and bring it up. So just another thing here in your 90-90 to get just some internal rotation hip again. You can take that top leg, squeeze it inward as you rotate inward, bring it out because we're always working this external, trying to keep this knee down. Squeeze, out, squeeze. So you can always do 10 to 12 of those in your cool down, then come back to the other side. Press down, bring it up, try and keep the chest tall. If you need to, you're leaning back a little bit, but this knee stays down. And mine does not raise up very far on this side. This is my painful side. All right, and let's go ahead and come onto the knees. So very last thing is going to be child's pose. It's going to be a little bit different though. So in your child's pose, you are threading, right? You're going to thread, but you're going to give yourself a nice twist. So shoulder hopefully is on the ground, that bottom shoulder, and you're sort of pressing this hand or this wrist. You're pressing it even more just to kind of push yourself upward and look over your shoulder. You can always take the knees apart if that feels better for you, or you can keep the knees in slightly. Bring it up, and then other side. Child's thread, laying hopefully the shoulder down, and then as you press in, you're kind of twisting yourself to look up. Oh, there's the pop. You can inhale down, exhale, twist, or you can hold that twist. Inhale down and exhale, twist. You can do a few of those breaths, and then just finally holding it. So many more things we can do, guys, but that is the gist of this class to hopefully kind of release all that backside back there. So, feels so good. Any questions, let me know.